Hey everybody, it's David Pingree here with Jay Clark for a really fun project today. We've got a 2010 CRF250, and this thing has a pretty long story and history. Jay, you've had this bike a really long time. I love the look of it, the kind of the flat or the matte colors. You know, I think it's got a really unique look. Tell us a little bit about the history of this bike, and then we'll get into what you did to it.
Okay, so this bike, we got this bike in late 2009. We've had it that long. And at the when I first got it, I remember I was still stuck on the carbureted 09 that we had dialed in, and I swore I would never like the fuel-injected bike, you know, because I'm kind of stuck in my ways. And sure enough, I liked it a lot and just loved it, and we've kept it ever since. And so it's been used by like 20, 30 different guys. Everybody uses it. It was called Jim Tie Bike because my buddy Jim and his kid Ty would always borrow it. So we just called it Jim Tie Bike. Well, we finally, they have their own bikes now, which is cool. They got their own bikes. So now we've rebuilt it again. And it's been rebuilt a few times. The thing probably has 300 or 400 hours on it. We've gone through a few hour meters, and now it's ready for another story.
Well, the hour meter just blows up like a Mission Impossible disc?
Yeah, just too much time. And when we first got it, we never even kept hour meters on it. We just kind of guessed. So, but now we've been able to, and we realized how good a bike this thing is with those spring forks. You know, we went through a period where all those air forks, to have such a really good bike that handles well and good suspension, we realized, hey, this thing's worth keeping around. I couldn't sell it for much, so I might as well keep it for a good bike for us to ride when we're low on bikes.
Yeah, you always have a buddy that needs a set of wheels. So you've obviously got a long history with this bike. There's some really trick parts on this. I love the aluminum tank and some of the other little bits and pieces. Tell us a little bit about what you did.
Well, I got a little connections with some of the race teams, and I got from FC Race Team. They had these tanks they don't use anymore. These things were way high dollar back when they were racing. They use these for outdoor racing, gives them a little bit more fuel capacity for those outdoor races. And I thought, hey, I might as well add something cool to this thing while I'm doing it. So we went through and rebuilt the engine. That's the main thing. And while we had the engine out, redid the frame, got the suspension redone by factory connection. The engine got it completely rebuilt with the hot rods, crankshaft, hot cams, of course. And my buddy Brad, Parapro's buddy that lives next to me, he ported the thing like 5, 6, 7 years ago, something. And the head's still good. He went and cleaned it up. We put new valves from Exeldyne in there. Their X2 valves, got that all done. Cylinder Works big bore kit with the Vertex piston. So the motor's all back together with all new parts there. And Jamie then at Twisted helped us map it with the FMF pipe. He was able to help map it and make sure the thing just runs perfect. We didn't have to map it. It ran pretty decent, but with the mapping, it runs perfect with the Vortex ECU.
Yeah, the mapping just cleans everything up. It just makes the whole bike, the power feel sharper everywhere.
Yeah, for sure, and that's what's nice. Nice luxury that we live here in California, and Jamie's close, and he's really good at that. He's pretty awesome at doing that, and he kind of knows the whole deal.
So I got a question. When you get this thing down to the frame, old steel frames, you hear the stories about how quickly and how much they would stretch over time. With these aluminum frames, after this many hours on a bike, do you pull it apart? Do you ever measure and see if these things are moving?
No, everything seems to still line up well. This thing wasn't ever Supercross raced or nothing like that. So it's never been rode by somebody, jumping some gnarly triples and casing it. So the main thing was like all the bearings and seals, steering stem, linkage bearings, all that stuff we replaced with the pivot work stuff. All balls mixed, cables for the clutch cable, throttle cables. So all that kind of stuff needs to be replaced. We got new chain and sprockets from Super Sprox. All the wear items are the main keys. And then, of course, we wanted to add some good performance to it. So now this thing with a 270 kit and all these mods runs as good as about any current 19 250F out there.
Oh, that's exciting. I'm stoked to get out there and try it. And the suspension, did you just have factory connection go through it again?
Yeah. We need to freshen it up. So, and we love the suspension the way it was, and they just freshened it up before this test, so it'd be all good to go.
Cool. Well, let's get this thing out on the track. It's got a lot of really cool parts and pieces and looks beautiful. Let's see how it runs. All right, we went out and put some time on this Honda 250, and it'd be tough to tell that this is as old as it is, 2010 model. You get out on the track, the big bore kit, and these are a little tricky. You got to make sure you get them right. The 270 kit adds a ton more torque. You're not abusing the clutch coming out of turns. This thing just picks up and goes. But if you don't address the top end, you can wind up with big bores that kind of come on real strong and then just sign off. And the hot cam stage 2 cam, along with the FMF exhaust and the mapping that Jamie did over at Twisted, that fixes all that top, so you gain all that torque and bottom, and then you keep all your top end, and actually add more from what stock is. So a really, really fun engine on this thing. Just able to roll it on like a current 2018 or 2019 bike that you threw a big bore in. It's really not a whole lot different. A great performance out of this engine. And because everything's rebuilt and fresh, between the all balls kit and all the parts and pieces that were replaced, thing feels solid. I was kind of expecting some vibration and for it to feel a little loose. Everything feels nice and tight and secure. Like I said, I'd never guessed this thing's 8 years old. So having said that, suspension not set up for me. When I would get into really high speed chatter, it was kind of packing a little bit, but it's set up for Jay, and we're a little bit different weights and speeds and stuff, so that's to be expected. But brakes were really good. That's another thing. Over time, if you don't address those, you can get spongy brakes and kind of just a dead feeling. With the steel braided line, all the new parts and pieces and lines they put on, this thing feels great. Really like the tires. The Dunlops are kind of my go-to. And again, I got tie foot pegs, so I got a really good platform, and all the Works connection stuff I'm really comfortable with. That stuff just not only looks great, but really improves the way things work. The clutch, being able to adjust the clutch, a lot of those little parts and pieces. So stoked on this thing. Jay did a great job of taking what could be an obsolete bike, and with a few bucks, certainly less than what it would cost you to go buy a new bike, you can turn it into something like this. And a really great job on the graphics. The guys did an awesome job with this matte finish. So kudos to those guys for really making this thing look trick. Thanks to Jay for letting us ride it. Thanks for checking it out, and we'll see you on the next build.